hit the lead off.
All right, we're gonna start this podcast in five, four,
Oh, oh.
3, 2, 1.
Hang on. Time out. I'm gonna call one small little timeout.
You're all good.
I know that. I know that it's one of those things where we've got. I mean, we've got people kind of like know, like some people know, like some people kind of know us like going into this, but
Yeah.
like, do we kind of want to go with like no, it's like our first, like kind of like our first names, and then all of a sudden just like, oh, you can call otherwise known as Ruckus or
Let's just stick with Ruckus and the Menace for
yeah,
now.
yeah,
It's all good. All
yeah.
right, starting in five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ruckus, and you're listening to Ruckus and the Menace.
Hey, Ruckus. I know, I'm Spanish, and I'm bringing this in here, but this is the first time these guys have heard us. So why don't we kind of really give us a little bit more of a background on ourselves, and I'll let you go ahead and go first.
Alrighty. Well, you guys probably heard me a little bit, possibly, from Nice Guy, but I am born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm a big sports buff when it comes to moves and other things with stats and whatnot with baseball, basketball, and football. I'm a big Chiefs fan at heart and a big Royals fan. Um, and as far as my profession, what I do outside of this, I work as a technician at a local power automation company.
All right. Yeah, and then for me, my major points of background as Menace the Menace. This was a nickname that was given to me as a college freshman that stuck, but it more so stuck in a sense of like gamer tags and things like that. But I had had my time spent doing 5 years in a local newspaper thing here off of the eastern panhandle of the state of West Virginia. Born and raised pretty much throughout the DC Beltway area, and or at least the outskirts of it. And then I spent 5 years also in a television production studio doing production assistant work. And during my back years of college, I also hosted a radio show along with a friend of mine that we did during our junior and senior years of college. And what I currently do now is I work for a major department store corporation doing online grocery and delivery kind of online goods and things for really a major corporation, not Amazon, but just a major corporation. And from there, I also have strong ties to the pretty much fan of the Washington Commanders and the Boston Red Sox. But I carry a lot of major sports background, ranging from football, college basketball, some college basketball, a little bit here and there, baseball, and numerous different other sports to the background mix. But from there, now that you've kind of learned a little bit more about us, let's now get right to what we have for our weekly lineup. But before we go too much further into some of the other major topics we had, something broke earlier this afternoon. Tyreek Hill has been traded to the Miami Dolphins for 5 draft picks, which included Miami's 29th overall pick, which was number 50 overall. So that would be their first and their second round picks, a fourth round pick in this year's draft, plus fourth and sixth round picks in next year's draft. I know as a Chiefs fan, that's definitely got to hurt you there, Ruckus.
Yeah, I was yelling some obscenities at myself whenever I first got the news on my phone, but like, it like grew. It like those feelings later on in the day just like kind of grew on me, and I was just like, you know what, this probably wasn't that bad of a deal, because let's face it, our cap space situation is super bad as far as trying to get long term deals done. And Tyreek Hill wanted a big extension, bigger than what Devontae Adams got with the Raiders. So I'm kind of glad that he got what he wanted, but it sucks that he's gone. But at the same time, we got Juju now, and I'm sure we'll probably find somebody to fill that void, even if it seems like it's not going to get filled anytime soon. I'm very optimistic about the future of the Kansas City Chiefs.
It looked like Tyreek Hill did get his extension as well with this deal, also getting a 4-year, $120 million extension. 72.2 million of that is guaranteed, and 52.5 million of that was due at signing as Agent Drew. And I'm sure you're going to remember this from the TO days. Next question, Rosenhaus told ESPN. So this makes Tyreek Hill the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. Kind of do, but I don't really think, other than that the cheetah has his speed, I I don't think he really is worth that type of paycheck, or type of fully that much of a paycheck to at least be higher paid than Devontae Adams.
I mean, he can jump. For one thing, too, like there was a couple moments. Uh, One being when Matt Moore threw a rocket over to Tyreek Hill, and he jumped over two defenders to grab the ball to get a first down. And then he, my favorite moments were when he would do like the peace sign before he like went into the end zone. A couple of those times he got fined, but hey,
Yeah.
hear say nor say.
Yeah. He kind of one of those things. He's like, oh, because he's so fast. He clearly knew he was going to be throwing the deuces at somebody. It's like that's extra when you've got to put that on your hands, like showing the peace sign with the stiff arm on your gloves, just so you don't get fined.
Also, how many times have you seen a wide receiver do a backflip voluntarily? Like,
There's
it's crazy how like obviously you had AJ, was it AJ Brown or who was it that did the front flip into the end zone with the
um
Bengals?
there were a couple of different guys. Like there's a couple of different guys that have done stuff like that. I've seen you've seen clips of like all these numerous athletic receivers doing some sort of like layouts or front flips type ordeals, diving, doing all these type of things. So they're all kind of like difficult to keep track. They're all
Yeah,
difficult to keep track, especially because some of them were like years ago.
yeah,
But
most definitely though. But like, I don't know. The way I'm just gonna finish it with this. I hope whatever he does in Miami is well for him, and I hope he gets some good success there.
I also will say that my concluding takes on it are that this deal was kind of due to happen. They weren't going to be able to afford to keep all three of those major weapons that they had in Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelsey, all in the same place for that long of a period of time. Did it get him a Super Bowl ring? Yes. Was Miko Harmon kind of waiting in the wings for this move? Most likely. It just had to happen this season where Tyreek is almost wanting to demand a payday.
Yeah.
But let's look at two other major deals and kind of cross examine them. The first one I'm going to really throw to you here is the Deshaun Watson deal. This the setup here for this is speculated over a year, and 22 lawsuits later. I mean, Deshaun Watson definitely had 99 problems at that point, but now being traded is not one of them. As on the 18th of March, he was sent to Cleveland as Houston got 3 first-round picks from this year through the next 2 years, a 2023 third-round pick, and a 2024 fourth-round selection. But the Texans sent a 2024 fifth-rounder along with Watson to get that. This is too extravagant of a price point. I really Deshaun Watson has not played for a whole season.
Also, he hasn't like he let just because the judge ruled you as like not guilty or whatnot doesn't mean that like the public or whomever it was couldn't just like accuse him of something else later and then bring him back into court and all those problems because like there's even like without or not without even with Deshaun Watson being like having legal issues. Like there's other people that have had legal issues before, like him, like Frank Clark. He had he was caught with a automatic submachine gun, I guess you could say, an Uzi, but people were they are he argued that it was like a single shot or whatever, but he still has court date later in the future, and we managed to somehow restructure his contract. I don't understand that, but anyways, Deshaun Watson, I think he was a little bit overpaid. Um, I don't know. That's all I have to say about that.
I think that yeah, this also came with a $230 million fully guaranteed deal. I think that Deshaun Watson ultimately has fleeced the Cleveland Browns because at least he has a chance of starting out at certain point with a suspension. The Cleveland Browns currently still have Baker Mayfield to kind of if this Deshaun Watson thing does not completely blow itself over, or in case anything happens at the moment, they at least have Baker Mayfield right now as a starting quarterback safety net. However, if they were to get rid of Baker Mayfield, as many of these other quarterbacks have moved throughout this offseason, the safety net is gone. The Cleveland Browns might not be in as great of a position in the future. So they've kind of mortgaged a lot of their future for one player that they may have to deal with a little bit more of the baggage and the headache of the legal situation that comes with it.
Yeah, I personally feel like any day now Baker could possibly get traded, but that's just me. Just as just like seeing all the news that's going out with because like there was like a rumor before even Matt Ryan, which we'll get into, where uh, Baker was possibly looking at going to the Colts. That was like his eyed place to be traded
Yeah.
to. But in your with your point in like seeing like if Baker was still going to be a starting quarterback, I don't know if that's still the plan personally in like his eye versus the Browns because
Right.
he doesn't really feel like he wants to play with the Browns according to sources. Like I don't know what's in his head right now, but who knows.
Yeah, I can definitely see where that really is the case. And I see Baker Mayfield eventually being dealt. But I think if you've got this Deshaun Watson thing hanging around and he is suspended at any point when he's finally set to come clear, they've got him held on as a security blanket. But we know Baker Mayfield in the long run wants out, and would not be surprised if they eventually do decide to hang on to him for at least a tiny bit longer than what you would normally think, that he either could be a draft day trade or a deadline deal. I mean, deadline deals are normally more for especially major key players, are more common in a sport of baseball, where you see a lot of key players move. But the NFL, it's happened time and time again. I mean, especially last year, if you look at the Odell situation,
Mm-hmm.
where Odell was dealt during the deadline, and look at where that led the Rams.
Yeah, and like the whole back to Deshaun Watson. There were reports that the NFL could still suspend him for a certain amount of games too. Like he wouldn't if they like decided, hey, we're gonna start Deshaun Watson, the NFL could still be like, nope, he's got like a 7 game suspension.
Yeah,
Because
given
like
that personal.
yeah, and I was just looking at Baker Mayfield's contract for this year. He's supposedly making $18.8 million in 2022. And like the previous years before that, like in 2018 when he started, he was making 480,000, and then it went up 50,000, and then it went up again to 750,000, and then almost a million last year, with a roster bonus obviously of a million or 2 million or what have you. But 18 million for this season, they could probably get some cap space back, possibly. I don't know how all the cap space stuff works, but they could probably get some cap space back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's if they play their cards right. I mean, shoot, the Texans have 6 picks in the top 110, but the Houston Texans were also not interested in having Baker Mayfield in the deal. So that's kind of where this slew of picks from Cleveland mortgaging the farm kind of came about.
Yeah.
And I think what I've been more happy with is that the Commanders were able to get out of a lot of that mortgaging the farm in the potential speculations that everyone was having of Deshaun Watson deals, Aaron Rodgers deals, Russell Wilson deals, that those have already kind of established their position now. But when we were in the speculation on those particular position points, it it makes sense that we decided to go with Carson Wentz, who maybe on a salary cap portion was not the best move, but for the amount that we gave up was definitely a not a sell the farm type deal. But let's go to but speaking of that type of deal where selling the farm was not a thing, Matt Ryan is now an Indianapolis Colt, and all the Colts had to send to Atlanta was a third round pick in this year's draft.
Which means that,
And with
sorry, go ahead.
and with that extra bit of money left over, the Falcons then were able to turn that into Marcus Mariota. So now, so now the question is, now that Atlanta is in the hunt for a quarterback in the first round, do they get one?
I mean, there's not very many quarterbacks that I know of really besides Kenny Puckett, I think is what his name is.
Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, Kenny Pickett. Yeah, the guy from Pitt. And then you got Brock Purdy from Iowa State, and those are the only ones I really knew of. But like before the combine, I only really knew of Brock Purdy because I saw him on the screen. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. But like again, there's not like a whole lot of quarterbacks that I know of that are in the draft. But there's going to be a lot of pass rushers and defensive help
Yeah.
in the draft.
You have Malik Willis from Liberty, Desmond Ritter from Cincinnati. There's a few different. Oh yeah, Sam Howell from North Carolina. There's a couple of different looks that Atlanta could go to, should they not go into the offseason market and eventually trade for one. But I even think that next year's draft class is supposed to be even better. And I think a lot of those teams that were trying to like that just about a month ago we're in the speculation of, oh, we might draft a quarterback in the first round. Not anymore. Not anymore. Because you've got a whole bunch of those teams that would have been set to do that. Get get quarterbacks that may be able to either delay that, or push quarterback, or maybe even push quarterbacks back in the draft and have them draft other positional needs, which may be a little bit more in bulk, kind of like what you're saying with pass rushers, pass catchers,
Mhm.
where there's a little bit more abundance. So a little bit more abundance of those particular positions available. And even with the NFL and their abundance of money spent, another sport has been dealing with their free agency and later stretches of the offseason to really, I believe if I last saw the count, it was like over $3 billion spent in baseball free agency.
Yeah, it's things are heating up over in the MLB, and the most recent free agents that came to get signed, one of them being Trevor Story, which, if I recall, he is going to the Boston Red Sox, which is one of your
Yep.
favorite baseball
Yep.
teams.
Yep. And it looks like and I just read something this morning that Trevor Story is completely content with playing with number one, not only playing in Boston, but also shockingly enough, like I didn't think this was going to be the case initially when we were thinking of it, but he's actually content with playing second base for now, and has a lot of great respect for Xander Bogaerts.
Which
So
is good to have on a on when you're building that chemistry, but also trying to like make sure the team still like can band together and be like a band of brothers. Um,
it also
this
gives us a great it also gives a great buffer to not just this season. This season it gives us a little bit more contending power, but I'm going to say next season, should Bogarts decide to opt out and walk, it gives Story a little bit more of movement, and it also gives the Red Sox defense a little bit of flexibility of being able to give days off.
most certainly. His deal um, is a 6-year deal worth up to $140 million on. Uh, I don't know how much is Bogarts making right now.
I'm not 100% sure on Bogart's numbers, but to think, compared to some of these other major deals that were kind of coming along, 6 years, 140, that's cheap. Like that is actually a rather inexpensive deal comparatively if you look at the landscape of it.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And then like the base salary this year for Xander Bogarts is 20 million, and then it says 2023 it will be about the same too. But it's
But he has the potential to opt out.
yeah, most definitely. And then and more recent news, which was one of the bigger shockers in my opinion. Carlos Correa going to the Twins with a 3-year deal worth up to 105 million. I This came out of left field for me because one, I thought he was probably going to stick with the Astros, and two, there were reports that he could possibly go to the Orioles, but I think that was more of a joke rather than a reality.
My bigger hunches were the deal that he turned down in Detroit.
Oh,
That
really?
of him being a Tiger, like actually being reunited with AJ Hinch.
Well, couldn't he? As far as like deaths there with the Tigers, they have Baez, they got some other guys, but do you think Baez would go to third base, or do you think Correa would be at third?
Actually, would have thought Baez would have moved to second.
Because I've only seen Baez really. play short, but that's just me. I don't know.
The Baez actually, I think prior to I think it might have been the 2016 series or something like that. Baez, I think, was actually playing second. I think he was playing second and then moved over
Interesting. But yeah, that would have
because the
been
Cubs at the time had Addison Russell.
yeah. At the time, it would have been a really big power move for the Detroit, but here again, the Twins. I don't know where they land as far as contenders for the Central, but we'll talk about that later on. But I listened to a press conference earlier where he was saying that he wanted to make the Twins like a very competitive team, which is pretty much what any other player would say whenever they join a new team. Like, hey, I want to win the World Series, or hey, let's get some winning going. But yeah,
And Correa,
I like this move. But yeah, I'm a little scared because he's in the AL Central with my Royals.
and multiple years of playoff experience actually does benefit Correa to be able to
Two World
also
Series, right, or three
show
World
the
Series?
um th- three World Series appearances, three World Series appearances, one win, two losses. So he's had three World Series in the last 5 years. In the last 5 years that have been in play. So I think playoff experience and deep playoff experience for multiple years in a row definitely can bring a lot to a table and kind of show some of these lesser experienced Twins as far as the playoffs go how to get there and how to win.
Most definitely. Another thing that came out of nowhere for me, because I know Dodger fans out there are probably a little upset, but Kenley Jansen signed a 1 year deal with the Atlanta Braves, a team that beat them in the championship series last year.
Oh, I think the Dodgers just, though they unloaded there, I think it's time to actually go to that other major deal that really makes this feel more like a one for one swap without having to really swap them for any extra pieces. Anything else is Freddie Freeman, much to the dismay of many, goes to the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Which is interesting because I didn't know for sure if Freddie was going to like literally just not come back to the Braves, but a lot of people are like, "Hey, Matt Olson just got traded to the Braves, and then he got an extension," and I was just like, I didn't see the talent that the Braves must have seen, but
No,
I'm a bit like shocked that they did that, and they were just like, "Yep, here you go. Here's a bag of money. Have fun. Let's play
he's
some
good enough.
baseball."
He's good enough. Usually Matt Olson, because I think Matt Olson was like a multi-time All Star, or at least was right there in that conversation. Olson, in more cases than not, was like one of the better players on the Oakland Athletics team that really went through a major fire sale. So I will definitely throw out there that I could see why Olson was due to move. I was thinking it it kind of also was still like maybe there was a glimmer of hope that Freddie was, with the universal DH coming in, that Freddie may still be able to stay with Atlanta but as a DH. But he's too valuable of a first baseman. And with that, the money just wasn't there. The money to have both Olson and Freeman in that situation, along with also having Ronald Acuna, Ozzy Albies, and then you have the potential future deal of Austin Riley. Should they choose to keep him? There's there may not be enough. There was more than likely not enough money to go around.
Yeah. And speaking of the Oakland A's, Matt Chapman getting traded to the Blue Jays. That one was a very big one for the Jays, as I mean they don't have. I mean they have Bo Bichette, maybe Kevin Biggio, and a few guys in their infield with Guerrero being at first.
Yeah, because the Blue Jays struck out on Freddie Freeman, they weren't able to get a first baseman to move Vlad to full time DH. So Vlad Jr. is going to be playing more first baseman reps.
And the Athletics received Gunnar Hoglund, Kevin Smith, Zach Logue, and Kirby Sneed as part of that trade. So the A's are really loading up on prospects and younger players as they begin to rebuild. And like you said, they did a fire sale, like many other teams, like the Reds. Most definitely recently,
Yeah, we'll get to a lot more of that later. I can tell you that much.
yeah.
And there are teams still reeling from the fire sale that occurred at the trade deadline that we already know of. So there's a lot going on. But with you saying prospects and kind of the farm systems, what'd you make out of the top 100 prospect list?
Um. Well, uh, I'm very happy to report that the number one prospect, um, out of the Kansas City Royals farm system, Bobby Witt Jr. I think he's a stud. There are a lot of people reporting that he kind of has a swing of Mike Trout. I honestly think that's just bogus. I think he is a slugger and he'll be a big stud playing at third base or wherever the Royals put him. But I hope I my my thoughts are that he'd probably go to open. He'd be like an opening day roster player. I don't know as far as like who else would be in that roster, but time will tell. Um, do you want me to bring up the top 10 out of that 100
Yeah,
list?
we can do that right now because I you can go ahead and do that. And I believe number two is a Baltimore Oriole, and that would be Adley Rushman, who really over the last couple of years have been like, are we going to see this kid move up? Are we going to see this kid finally move up into the major leagues, into the show? And I think now with the Orioles lacking the catcher that they have right now, other than where I'll mention later of who they currently have there, it's like, oh, is he going to move up? Are they going to finally decide to pull the trigger and call him up?
Yeah. Um, some of these names I haven't heard of at all, but Julio Rodriguez, he's an outfielder for the Seattle Mariners. He is number
Yep,
three. Um, Number four, Spencer Torkelson. He was, I think he was like
yep,
one of the first few that got drafted.
yeah, and that's in the Tigers farm system.
And then at number six, you have Grayson Rodriguez, which is another Baltimore Oriole.
Yeah. Oh, he's in the Orioles farm system. I thought he was
Yeah,
on.
he's a right-handed pitcher in the Double A system, according to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
MLB.com prospects list.
yeah. A lot of players that we'll eventually see on future stars cards in MLB the Show. So these are the guys we're definitely needing to look out for.
All right,
Especially,
let's go on to sports history with Menace.
all right. So we're kind of for sports history. Normally, I would try and take stuff from the week of, but I really only took stuff from 2 days and kind of had three different little highlight pieces for March 23rd and March 24th. On the 23rd, we wish happy birthday to Moses Malone, who notably was a high school player that came up into the pro system. More so was with the 76ers, but kind of, I think, had journeyed around through multiple teams. But the birthday that is currently tomorrow, that will be tomorrow, and is a little more nearer and dearer to my heart, the birthday of Peyton Manning, one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL history books. Kind of Omaha entertainment, kind of playing off of his usual Omaha call. I'm sure you've heard that one numerous times, whether he was a Colt or a Bronco. And you were dealing with that twice a year when he was in those few years in Denver.
Yeah, we tried to mute the TV, but somehow we couldn't get the mute button to work. But you know, Omaha is pretty close between Kansas City and Denver, I believe. As far as like, I don't know if it's like, yeah, we'll just put it at that.
Yeah.
Omaha, Omaha. I get PTSD from that sometimes.
Oh my. But we do but we know that on March 24th, the retirement of Dan Fouts. He was the quarterback that was known for more so in the San Diego, now known as the Los Angeles Chargers system, as the quarterback behind a lot of Don directly behind Don Coryell's Air Coryell offense, which is very much a vertical passing offense, which a lot of concepts in the NFL today were used. And even and a lot of teams have concepts with it, but it won Super Bowls not with Don Coryell himself, shockingly enough. Joe Gibbs, the former at the time the Redskins, but now Commanders head coach, won 3 with a vertical with similarities to the Don Coryell offense due to Joe Gibbs at the time being an offensive coordinator for Don Coryell and may have possibly had some time with Dan Fouts. But along with that, we've got some baseball history here. Is on the 24th as well. Mike Trout signed his 12-year, $426 million contract a few years ago. And how do we think that has panned out?
I'm gonna be honest. Not. I mean, it's been okay, but they haven't made the playoffs since 2014, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah,
Coming as a
I don't.
Royals fan, that sweeped them.
Yeah, I don't think it's amounted to as much as what they really thought it was going to. And and though the Angels still have plenty of time on that deal, it's still not necessarily one of those type of things. But now we've got ourselves to base. Now that we've got ourselves back to baseball in some way, shape, or form, the lockout kind of got. Now that the lockout's passed, some of the free agency has passed. It's time to go to the high heat, and the high heat for this week is the MLB preview because we've got about a couple weeks till the season starts. We've got this going on. We're going to break down the divisions.
And to be honest, it's crazy to think that it's baseball is coming back up, knowing last week or so that we might not have a season right around the corner. And it kind of got me back to thinking about the 2020 season when there was only 60 games and they didn't start until July. But I'm happy that baseball's back. I'm sure you're happy about it too. But
Oh, no doubt.
uh, the first division we're going to focus on is the American League, starting with the AL East.
Yep, my home division. My home division.
And to start that on that note, we're going to go with the Yankees, which I mean, they did a couple things. They re-upped Rizzo to a single-year deal, which adds some insurance to first base because Rizzo is one hell of a first baseman. He played for uh he was in the Red Sox system whenever he first was he drafted by the Red Sox?
I'm not 100% sure about the drafting, but he eventually got up into the major league system through the Chicago Cubs.
Right.
Was a World Series champion with those Chicago Cubs in 2016.
Yes. And then he actually did get traded from the Cubs to the Yankees
Yankees last
halfway.
season. Yep.
Yeah.
It was a deadline deal last year.
And then also in that mix, Gary Sanchez and Gio Urshela were traded away for uh, Donaldson, Josh Donaldson, which is plays third base and can do a little bit DH, and Isaiah Kiner Falefa, which the Twins uh, traded for Mitch Garver and a few other players, and then they decided to trade Donaldson and then Isaiah Conner-Fluffa to the Yankees.
Well, the Donaldson was already a Twin.
Right. I was just
Donaldson,
saying that Conner-Fluffa was
yeah,
a
and Connor
new
Falefa
twin.
does have some catching background, just in case Kyle Higashioka does not work out for them as well as they think. But they also sent away Luke Voigt to the Padres. This allows Rizzo to fully be able to play first base. And the big thing that everybody was hoping for with the Yankees getting into the middle infield sweepstakes with Story and Correa and striking out on both of them, DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres are expected to be their middle infielder positions. So they kind of stood pat there.
Yeah, it was very depressing seeing DJ Mayhew play first base, in my opinion. But honestly, he looked okay there. But you need a first baseman that can grab it through the dirt and whatnot, and that's how they got, and that's why they brought Rizzo back.
Yep.
And the next team we're gonna go after is the Red Sox, which is one of Spanish's teams. We talked earlier about Trevor Story signing a 6-year deal. They also added a few lefty relievers in Jake Diekman and Matt Strom, which Diekman, before he came to the Red Sox, played for the Oakland Athletics,
Yep.
and he he also was a former Royal as well. He's he's one of those like cheap relievers they can get that has some seasoning to him. And then Matt Strom is also a lefty as well, but he seems to be pitching all right. But in any fashion, they are both really good budget pitchers. They also traded back for Jackie Bradley Jr., sending Hunter Renfroe to Milwaukee,
Yep.
and then they go ahead.
Then we're let's kind of keep ourselves a little bit more let's speed it up a little bit here. Kind of letting Eduardo Rodriguez walk to Detroit, getting Rich Hill, starting part of the season without Chris Sale, and not expected to have Paxton, even though we signed him. Signed James Paxton. This may be more of a future type move, but I really think that ultimately with this, Boston should be quite all right, especially even with my concerns of the first base position and the development of Bobby Dahlbeck.
Most definitely.
But yeah, but the Blue Jays made the biggest splash of the offseason, of course, with Matt Chapman being in a trade. They got Kevin Gausman to replace Robbie Ray, who signed elsewhere. They adding also Kikuchi and Barrios to their arsenal. The Rays really the only major move they had was Corey Kluber, but will also start the season without Glasnow. But the core of like Brandon Lau, Yandy Diaz, G-Man Choi, Randy Arozarena, Kevin Kiermaier, Tampa's going to be solid. But the Orioles, their changes were more so that even though they had Robertson Chirinos, but they start the season with different appearances to their stadium. So Camden Yards is going to get a little bit of an overhaul the next time I decide to go out to Baltimore, as the dimensions of the left field wall are heightened by 5 feet, and also the distance is moved back 30 feet to reduce the number of home runs hit there, and the reputation of it being a very hitter friendly ballpark. So though the Orioles' record may be lackluster, and they still have their core of Mullins, Mancini, Mountcastle, and the potential prospects of Adley Rutschman moving up, there's really only so much that the Orioles are going to be able to do, because it's almost like a poverty organization at this point.
Yeah. Um, Also, another team that we defeated in the postseason 2014. Just rubbing dirt in the wound. Speaking of the Royals, the AL Central is the next team we're going to talk about, and it's going to start off with the White Sox. A very quiet. They were very quiet during the off season, but they the core is coming back and is just as talented as it was before. They
So
also brought Joe Kelly in, and they kept Craig Kimbrell, which is good.
yeah, yeah. So I expect the White Sox to really continue to make noise steadily. That even though the White Sox may not do much, they still got a lot of talent. They still got a lot of talent over there. The Twins, of course, hitting the jackpot with Correa, Urshela, Sanchez. A lot of those moves also compensate for the loss of Nelson Cruz, who has now gone to the Beltway and the Nationals. And really for the Tigers, signing Rodriguez and Baez, but they lose Nico Goodrum, who went to Houston. The Guardians look the Cleveland looks poised for a fire sale. I think they will be a team that I see as being a deadline fire sale team, as they have Jose Ramirez, Shane Bieber leading the way, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jose Ramirez get dealt during the deadline.
Could be a very powerful target, that's for sure. The Royals, they didn't have a they had a very quiet offseason, but they got Amir Garrett in a trade for Mike Minor, and then signing Zach Greinke to a 1-year deal to help them move forward with the rebuild. I'm very excited about the Royals season for sure.
And now we move to the AL West to round out that half of it. The Mariners being big buyers in the offseason, picking up a lot of players, pretty much the main force of taking advantage of the Reds fire sale, getting Adam Frazier and Robbie Ray, and really just trying to find a way to make that playoff push and kind of get really back to the days of 1995, where you had Joey Cora, Griffey, Edgar. So looking to get back to 95 to push to the further position that they've been to since 1995. The Angels are the main thing with the Angels has been get all these pieces. Have a major meltdown somewhere along the way. Build it over again during the off season and have their money that they have not necessarily pan out. Last year it was Rendon. This year it's Syndergaard. Syndergaard and a lot of pitching. The Oakland Athletics just basically had their major fire sale, and will also start the season without Ramon Laureano in the early going. I think the A's may not be done with their fire sale ultimately when it's all said and done, and maybe they either release Laureano or ship him off in a deadline deal down the line. But I think that the A's are going to be a long shot. And then the Rangers bolstered up the middle of their infield with Semien and Corey Seager picking up Mitch Garver behind the plate. So they look like a solid team. And really all the Astros did was just sign Nico Goodrum to replace Correa and also hang on to Verlander. So they've got, but Houston still is always very solid.
Most
But
definitely.
do we want to go over our winners to the AL now, or do we want to wait till we get through the NL?
Um, let's wait till we get to the NL.
All right. So I kind of decided to really make these a little bit quicker with the National League. The East, pretty much swapping first baseman with Matt Olson, letting Freeman walk for the Braves. I believe they also ended up re picking up Eddie Rosario as well. The Mets pretty much being big buyers in free agency.
Mad Max, baby.
Yep. And the Phillies getting Castellanos and Schwarber to kind of shore up their corners. They can smack the baseball, but defense may be a little suspect. The Marlins getting Jorge Soler and Avisail Garcia. A lot more hitting involved. And the Nationals, Nelly Cruz was the major fire sale. Basically, they're a team recovering from from a deadline fire sale last year, where they let go of a lot of talent and are really centering this team around Juan Soto. The Cubs are another team that is recovering from a deadline fire sale. The Cardinals were a little quieter during the offseason. You still got Arenado and Goldie. Pirates, it's like they're probably going to be the top overall pick team. Brewers getting Renfro, but not much else on support.
Yeah, besides Andrew McCutcheon. Andrew McCutcheon's also was signed to the Brewers
Oh
recently.
wow! So I thought he stayed in Philly, but that's just me. But then the Reds were pretty much an off-season fire sale team, letting go of Eugenio Suarez, Jesse Winker, Amir Garrett. So the Reds are definitely fixing themselves for a rebuild, as I would think that sooner or later down the line, Joey Votto is going to retire.
Which is a damn shame, but yeah.
But
The
now,
dot.
but then we go to the competitive division of the NL West. All right, Ruckus, go ahead and take it away here, because I know I've been running. I've been just trying to run through this so that we can get to a couple of other notable things here.
Yeah, most definitely. For the Dodgers, Freeman was the blockbuster acquisition. Still super loaded as per usual over the last few years. They have a very dominant lineup coming ahead. The Rockies with Chris Bryant. This came to me. I was a little shocked because the Rockies management not so good, especially when you trade Arenado. Um, Giants, they built to attempt to pick up where they left off from their surprise 2021 season with Jock Peterson and Carlos Rodon. Padres got a trade for Luke Voigt, which allows Hosmer to be expendable. Otherwise, not much activity. And then Diamondbacks, let's just say a whole lot of
Whole lot of
nothing.
nothing. I wanted to jump in on that one too because I wrote it in that fashion.
Yeah, and also, no offense, Rockies management, but good lord.
It makes that look really really bad, but Chris Bryant is a Vegas boy, so it pretty much made perfect sense.
Yeah.
But now that we've kind of gotten through a lot more of the basics there, I would have figured, hey, let's go with more detailed breakdowns, but we want to kind of keep it moving.
Yeah.
Um, but with that, let's go into the winners here. So let's start with the AL. Who you
Um,
looking at for the East?
do you want me to go first, or do you want to go?
I'll go and go for there, Ruckus.
All right. So for the East, I had the Red Sox because I love like the new additions they brought with Story, and also they have a good bullpen to supplement that.
You carry a lot of faith in my team there. I mean, I'm going to be a little bit more realistic, and I think that pitching is going to be a major thing that shoots Boston in the foot, especially in the slumping months of May and generally July, or of April and July, maybe a little bit in June. I think we're on that borderline still, even though we were 2 games away from a World Series. I mean, Story does help it a lot on the defensive end, but I think overall pitching is going to hurt. I I went with a little bit more toward the Toronto Blue Jays in that I think that Chapman deal is going to work wonders on the defensive side of the ball for them more than the offensive end. Now to the Central.
Um, for the Central, I picked the Chicago White Sox because, for one, their lineup is probably arguably almost as dominant as the Los Angeles Dodgers lineup. You got the outfield, which is pretty loaded in Luis Robert. You got Eloy Jimenez, and at right field, you could kind of like mix and match in between, but like in general, and then in the infield, you have Tim Anderson, you got Jose Abreu, you got um, other spots that could be filled. Yohan Moncada being at third. I don't remember who is usually at second, but uh, at your catcher you have Yasmani Grandal, which is a powerhouse that also was a former Dodger, and then your pitching is looking pretty good too, as far as Lance Lynn. You got shoot. I'm drawing a blank.
You have Liam Hendricks in the bullpen. You have Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen. You've got a
Correct.
couple of different options. You got a couple of different options you can go to.
Yeah, I just feel like the White Sox they had like a taste of the playoffs last year and the year before, but I think they're gonna get a little bit farther and possibly uh be. I think they'll win the division for sure.
Nothing substitutes great managerial experience. And Tony La Russa is one of the best to do it. I mean, he's won a few World Series in St. Louis, and it shows. I also took the White Sox, though the Twins will chase them, and I think that the Twins have potential to make great chase strides with what they were able to pick up. But I think it's not going to be quite enough. I took the White Sox, but it's going to come down to maybe that final day of the regular season or the final like 2 weeks
Do you,
where it's going to where some separation is going to eventually have to be made.
do you think that it could come down to a 163rd game?
Possibly. Possibly, but it all depends on but I think at that point it may depend on how streaky both teams get.
That is for sure. In the West,
And the West.
sorry, in the West, I have the Texas Rangers as. Let's be honest here. They got Simeon and Seager. Simeon is a powerhouse, can also play the infield at third base, shortstop, you name it. Corey Seager, also a powerhouse. They both have played in Globe Life Field. Seager crushed bombs as a Dodger at Globe Life Field during the postseason of 2020. And Simeon has had his fair range of attempts playing as a Blue Jay and as
With
I
Oakland Athletics.
yeah, I didn't know if Oakland Athletics ever played at a Globe Life, but
Of course they played at Glow. Of course they played at Glow Life
yeah,
because it's a division rivalry.
yeah. And so yeah, that's why I picked the Texas Rangers because they loaded up a bit and they have Mitch Garver at catcher.
I I say that you underestimate that rotation in Houston. I think that rotation that is bringing back Verlander. You still have pitchers like Framber Valdez and some of that pitching in Houston. I think the pitching in Houston is going to ultimately be the difference maker. I'm going to take the Astros, but I do believe that the Rangers will give them a very hardy chase, and the Rangers could be one of those teams that I think is going to be right there in that hunt for the wild card. But it also the AL East is definitely one of the most competitive divisions in baseball. So there's going to be a whole lot of jockeying around. I think the Mariners are also going to be in that mix as well. So there's a lot of great competition, and especially with some of these teams that made major signings. We're not going to go into any wild card speculation yet, especially because we want to wait for the season to flow a little bit more. But I think there's a lot of good wild card work coming up here later on, and there's a lot of teams that could potentially chase for it.
All right, now we'll do the National League, and starting off with the East, I picked the Mets because they bolstered their pitching with Mad Max. They got Degrom, they got Jaquan Walker, and they also loaded up a little bit on the infield and outfield. I think they have some very good hopes of getting into the very deep into the NL East this year.
I think you're meaning Taiwan Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I actually am not taking the Mets. I am going to go with the defending champs. I think that really minus like a little bit of some of those other type of changes. You still got Dansby at short. You still got Austin Riley at third. I mean, there's a different first baseman in town, but this first baseman is also solid on the defensive side of the ball too, and can hit nukes. So I don't think the Braves really lose much. And also having Kenley Jansen in that bullpen with a lot of experience as well. I'm going to take the Braves, but it is going to be very close, especially if the Mets can stay healthy.
Yeah, that was a big problem many seasons ago, and just in recent history. They it's very not rare that you would see a Mets player get injured.
Plus, I also think that the Mets still don't have Conforto yet. Because I think Conforto, or I don't think a team's picked up Michael Conforto yet.
I haven't heard any thing really about that.
Yeah, so I think probably because Conforto is still a free agent, I don't think I can fully secure myself in picking the Mets, especially if they don't try and retain Conforto.
All right, so the Central, honestly, because like the Cubs are already had their fire sale near the trade deadline last year, and I just I don't know. Personally, the Cardinals seem like the better fit for me because they got Arenado, they got Goldie, they got Harrison Barnes, they got uh
Harrison Bader.
Bader. My bad, I'm thinking
Harrison Barnes is a basketball player.
Harrison Bader. They got Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Carlson and a bunch of other people. And also the rotation is somewhat strong with Jack Flaherty and a few others to mention, but I have faith in the St. Louis Cardinals as a
I
central contender.
I think this is a little. I think the NL Central is a little bit more of a walk away, or more of a runaway. The Brewers may chase early, but I think some things with them will cause them to take a few steps back. And I think the Cardinals are probably the most complete team in the NL Central. But we definitely differ as far as going into the NL West, one of the most competitive divisions in baseball. We
And
had a
you might think, hey, like, this was easy, like, let's pick the Dodgers, but I'm going to be honest with you. The past few seasons, it's been hit or miss with the Dodgers, but that could be really any. That could go any other way with any team. The Dodgers in 2019 lost in the division round against the Nationals. 2020 they go to win it all. 2021 they lost to the Braves in the NLCS. Um, but you know what other team did very successful last season? The Giants. The San Francisco Giants. They won over 100 games last year and made the Dodgers step up to their level in the NLDS. But mind you, the Dodgers beat them. But still, that season the Giants had last year makes it even better when you had Jock Peterson as some offensive help and some defensive help in the outfield, and also you have Logan Webb and a bunch of other young men and Mike Yastrzemski. Is that how you say it, Mike Yastrzemski?
Yastrzemski, of course, the grandson of Yaz.
Um, and in general, they looked like a baseball team that was just fierce, and they had grit, and a lot of very good things were just coming their way. Obviously, they won more games, and I think they're gonna probably not do like the equal amount of effort, but they'll still be a contender against the Dodgers. So
I
my
think the
pick is the Giants.
oh yeah, I think the loss of Chris Bryant is going to hurt them a lot more than what you realize. And the Dodgers are stacked. I personally think the 2021 for the San Francisco Giants, in a nutshell, was more of a fluke. I I was more stunned by it, but I can understand why Gabe Kapler very well was a manager of the year pick for the NL last year. But the real question would be, why couldn't Gabe Kapler have done this in Philly? What ultimately is going to cause this whole thing to just, I think the Giants overachieved last year. And I don't know if this is going to be enough, especially because they face the Dodgers as many times as they do. So I'm going to go chalk here. I'm taking the Dodgers. All right. So,
Especially when you have Freddie Freeman in the mix. But
yeah.
all right, now we're going into a new segment. Uh, this is brewed up and crafted by Menace himself, and we call this segment the War Room.
All right. So, what we have going on here is that Ruckus and I are going to be crafting teams based on because we did the MLB preview. The challenge will be to build an MLB team using current players on teams spun on a wheel that I have on another screen. Once a player has been picked, he cannot or that player cannot be picked by any other player that is set, because I was sorry, I was kind of like laying that out here. All
You're good.
position players, a DH, a starting pitcher, and a closer are to be selected from out of all 30 teams.
This
So,
includes a catcher, first baseman, second baseman, shortstop, third
yep,
baseman, left fielder, center fielder, right fielder, and then a starting pitcher, closer, and DH.
yep. And the first wheel has spun, and we are looking at the Astros.
All right.
The the Astros are the first team.
You want me to pick first?
Yep, you have first pick.
Um, I'm gonna go. Does it have to? Do you have to start with a as a catcher for the?
No, no.
Okay.
No, you're picking based on position. You're picking based on position.
All right. I'm gonna. Did they have Brantley in right field or left field?
You can put him in any spot. You can put him in either spot.
I'm gonna put Michael Brantley at left field for my Houston Astros pick.
Okay. So go ahead and select yourself a left fielder. And while you're doing that, I am actually going to take at second base. I'm actually going to take at second base. Hmm. Do I look at second base or do I look at the starting pitching? Hmm. That's tough. Like that's tough because there's a couple of different really good positions that I could look into. For this. I think I'm gonna see another. I think I'm gonna see a lot of great pitching here later on. I'm taking Jose Altuve at second base.
All right. Good choice. He's very short stacked, but he packs a punch.
No, no. I gotta make this look a little better. Okay, the Chicago White Sox are the second team. Oh,
All right.
with all those weapons, a lot of different options here, Ruckus.
Oh man, because you have a lot
You've
of
got
them.
You got Grandal at catcher, Jose Abreu at first, Tim Anderson at short, Moncada at third, Robert at center, Lance
Um,
Lance Lynn on the hill, Liam Hendricks or Craig Kimbrell as your closer.
speaking of which, whenever I played you in Diamond Dynasty a past few times,
Oh
I had a
my!
I had a threat at not only at the
Oh, great.
pitching
I know
mound,
exactly who he's
but
picking.
at the diamond, you they for whatever reason they make him have like these big thick muscles in the game. I'm going
Zero power, zero
with
contact.
I'm going with
Liam
Liam Hendricks,
Hendricks.
baby, because
Oh my
he
gosh.
hit a dinger for me against you, and screw it, he is really good as a closer, and he was an All-Star last year. Liam Hendricks of the
Oh,
Chicago White Sox.
oh my gosh. How did I figure you were going to do that?
I don't know because I beat you
Um,
with him a couple times.
yeah. But I'm I'm actually now
That's a
now
very good move.
yeah, but I have a little bit of fun in my decision now, especially because you went pitching.
Uh oh.
Um,
I'm
uh,
scared.
no, because you've left me a lot of fun options. However, I am actually going to take the center fielder. I'm taking Luis Robert.
Smart move.
I'm taking Luis Robert. There's a lot of speed. The Detroit Tigers are the next team.
Oh, all right. I'm going Baez second base.
Gonna go Javi Baez, second base. How you do this to me, man? I know this wheel did not treat me kindly. This wheel did not treat me kindly.
It's the war room, man. You never know.
Uh, however, am going to go. I'm going to go starting pitching. No, because they don't have Goodrum anymore. Miguel Cabrera is a shell of himself. Mm, I can't count the farm system, so I can't throw Torque in
You
yet.
you got Rodriguez.
That's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at, and I really am not. I really didn't want to have to a starting burn my starting pitching spot.
You
Because
don't
I
have
could put.
to.
No, I really didn't want to have to, but I might need to if I'm unless you want me to count Torkelson as a player and I can put Torkelson a third.
I mean, you can do that. He could technically get called up. We don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Torque. I think I'm gonna take Torque at third because I can't necessarily remember the spelling of it. I'm just gonna put Torque because I know exactly who we're talking about here.
Yeah, I understand.
The Baltimore Orioles.
All right. You're gonna hate me so much, but I'm doing it anyways. Cedric Mullins, center field.
Looking, but now that you went Mullins,
You still had that starting pitching.
yeah, I actually could go John Means. Could go John Means there. But I'm actually gonna take the left fielder here. I'm gonna take the left fielder and go Ryan Mountcastle.
Ooh, good pick.
I'm gonna take Ryan Mountcastle here. The Atlanta Braves.
Oh God. All right, I'm putting Eddie Rosario in right field.
Over who I'm
Okay, never mind,
pretty
never mind, never mind, never mind. Never mind. Can I take back? Can I take back?
you haven't even officially made the pick yet.
All right, I'm gonna go Ronald Acuna.
You're Ronald Acuna. I knew you were gonna ultimately think that. and that
It was like,
was.
it was like, okay, I screwed up here.
I looked. I'm like, wait. I'm like, are you really gonna give me the option between Matt Olson and Ronald Acuna?
I mean, I could have.
I mean, I'm taking Matt Olson. I'm taking Matt Olson. That's a since Torque's already at third. Since Torque's already at third, Austin Riley. I could have gone Dan. I could have also went Dansby, but seriously, seriously, the Toronto Blue Jays.
I'm gonna go Kevin Gosman.
All I'm gonna say is, all I'm gonna say here is, look what you did.
Bo
Look at
Bichette.
well, but but here's what also you did.
Uh oh. Uh oh.
I'm taking Vlad. I'm like, I could look Bo Bichette, but I'm like, somewhere along this line, there's gonna be a shortstop I really want more than Bo. I'm taking my DH here, and I'm going Vlad Jr. because I've already got Olsen at first.
There you go. There you go.
This does nothing for me. The Cardinals.
Um, I'm going Arenado, third base.
Well, that was the kind of move I was thinking you were going to do, was Nolan Arenado. Yeah, because it's just remember it's Torkelson, right?
Yep.
Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Hmm.
Still got Flaherty.
I
Can
know
also
Flaherty's
use. Well, is Brad Miller still a Cardinal?
or Andrew Miller. Yeah, Andrew Miller's a closer,
Yeah.
but
Why did
I
they
think
say Bradley Miller?
Brett Miller's a basketball player. Also a bowler on the PBA. But I gotta take Flaherty here. No, no, we gotta get a different team here. The Colorado Rockies. Do we want to spin again? Because I don't know enough about this team to really make this matter. So I'm gonna have to look at the Rockies roster here and make a decision.
I mean, there's really only one notable player besides CJ Crone, I think, right?
Oh, okay. I might be onto something here.
Here, let me.
But where are you going?
Hold on. Rockies. I'm looking up their depth chart really quick. Is that legal?
Mm. Oh yeah,
Ooh.
because I had to do some research too. Because I had to make sure I knew where I was looking at. Oh wow. Oh wow, they got a couple of different
Ooh.
options.
Ooh.
Ooh, they technically have Chris Bryant listed as an outfielder, but your outfield's full. So if you have anything left, you have a DH. You have a DH. You have a first baseman. We both still have our catcher open.
See here. This is gonna be a tough one because I don't know. How about this? We'll do Charlie Blackman at DH.
Oh, and you took Chuck Nasty from me.
You
I was
have
thinking
Chris
of
Bryant. You have Chris Bryant still.
yeah, but I don't because Chris Bryant also plays third. I don't necessarily want to use him as an outfielder. He's a third baseman.
Are
Unless
you
you
able to
unless
switch Torkelson out for a DH and then put Bryant in, or is that cheating?
no. No, I don't have a DH to switch to.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
have
that's true. That's
I
true.
don't have a DH to switch to because I have Vlad. I'd have to change. I'd have to change a couple of other different things around in order to do that. Um, hmm, but Chris Bryant is not a right fielder. Oh, this is tough. Because Connor Joe is a first baseman. I already have that. Ryan McMahon. Man, I did not want to do this, but I was left with it. Jose Iglesias.
All right.
Jose Iglesias. Kind of have to go Jose Iglesias. We already used the White Sox.
All right.
The,
Um.
the Minnesota Twins.
Um.
Ooh. I've got some fun
Oh.
because
Oh.
what are you gonna do? Oh,
Korea.
you're fine. I think we're fine here. I think we're fine here.
I that's why I was like, because you're just like, don't you dare, and I'm like, I'm doing it.
No, you had full right to it. You had full right to it.
Woo.
Um, especially because especially because the player that I need to move over, I need to move over Luis Robert because
Buxton,
I'm getting Byron Buxton.
a player that you freaking used to trample over me at the beginning of Diamond
Oh yeah,
Dynasty.
oh yeah, because yep, you're down to a catcher and a first baseman. I'm down to a catcher and a closer.
All right,
The Texas Rangers.
Garver, Mitch Garver.
All right. So now I got to look at the Rangers bullpen because you took you took Garver. Oh boy. Uh,
They
but
have
they
Ian
add
Kennedy.
well, but I think the primary closer is either going to be Garrett Richards or Jose Leclerc. I think I'm actually going to have to take Jose Leclerc. Let's take Jose Leclerc. And the last team. Right. The Yankees.
Woo.
So that gives you Rizzo.
Well, not necessarily. I could do Rizzo. I could do Stanton if I wanted to. I could put Judge in there. I could put LeMahieu.
Well,
Uh,
the problem is that you need a first baseman.
right, but LeMahieu can play first base. Stanton can do it.
Oh, I don't think Stanton's played enough games at first base to really
I
do much
mean,
of.
it doesn't really matter a whole lot. He just has to sit there and grab the ball. That's a good pick, Higashioka.
Well, that's kind of the only pick I have. I mean, the only other
Um,
one I could look at is Isaiah Kiner Falefa, but
oh man, I'm just gonna go Anthony Rizzo just to make
yeah,
things
you have
easy.
Rizzo. All right, so kind of to summarize your team here,
All right,
Ruckus? Summarize your team.
all right, Mike. I have Mitch Garver at catcher, Rizzo at first base, Javier Baez at second base. At shortstop, I have Carlos Correa. Third base, I have Nolan Arenado. Left field, I have Michael Brantley. Center field, I have Cedric Mullins. Right field, I have Ronald Acuna Jr. My starting pitcher is Kevin Gosman. My closer is uh, Mil- uh,
Liam
Liam
Hendricks.
Hendricks, and then my designated hitter is Charlie Blackmon.
Okay, so what I have here is at catcher I have Kyle Higashioka. At first base, I have Matt Olson. At second base, I have Jose Altuve. At shortstop, I have Jose Iglesias. At third base, I have Spencer Torkelson. At left field, I have Ryan Mountcastle. At center field, I have Byron Buxton. At right field, I have Luis Robert. At starting pitcher, I have Jack Flaherty. At closer, I have Jose Leclerc. And at designated hitter, I have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So, who do you think won this war room? Let us know. Let us know at any possible time you see fit as you listen to these podcasts.
And to be honest, when it comes to future episodes, maybe one of these episodes will try and do like a simulation of it on MLB The Show or
Oh,
some other game. You
yeah,
never know.
this almost is like a fun one to kind of do, especially if we manage to have every single card available for these players.
To be honest, I feel like this would be a cool simulation to do, like if there was like a website for it specifically, and you just plugged in the players you wanted to.
Yeah, if only. I wonder. We may have to look a little bit more into what exists for that.
But for now, imagine it in your mind how overpowered or how insane this game would be. At Mitch Garver at catcher for my team. You got Rizzo at first base. You got Baez, who is a former teammate. You got Correa and Arenado. All these guys can do pretty well, except for Correa because he kind of gave away the ALDS for the Astros to the Royals. But that's just me. Michael Brantley's pretty good hitting and defense. Mullins can run. Acuna can run as long as he doesn't blow another ACL. Gosman can throw it. Hendricks can throw it. And Blackman, I could maybe put him in for an outfielder just in case. But anywho,
Yeah,
this is pretty stacked.
My only nerves that I have with my team is that I do have too many right-handed batters. Is I have a lot of right-handed batters. But it's kind of hard when you're trying to do this with a primary basis of just current players where there are a lot of right-handed batters.
That's for sure.
Yeah,
All right.
and we really didn't draw too many teams that had a lot of lefties. Like notable teams that got left out that we really could have drawn a lot from. The Red Sox. I think the Red Sox got left out. The Rays would have been a fun one to have in there.
For sure. The Dodgers.
Yeah, this is a non-Dodgers lineup. No Dodgers. We ended up with a Brave. We ended up with one Brave.
The Mets.
With a Brave. The Mets, the Rangers, the Mariners. There were a lot of fun options that we kind of got left off the board. So I think this I think definitely will get run back.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I think we'll definitely run that one back.
All right, our next segment.
And kind of the fun little closer for us for the time.
Yeah, this will probably be meme worthy, but now we go over the weekly stud and who is the weekly dud. All right, Spennis, who do you have as your weekly stud?
My weekly stud for this week is and I am actually going to March Madness for this one. The St. Peter's Peacocks, a team from Jersey City, New Jersey, that is a 15 seed in the NCAA tournament, and with spending 12 and a half times less than their two-seeded opponent, the Kentucky Wildcats, upset them. Then they go into the next round 2 days later, and they take out Murray State. Both of those teams from the state of Kentucky. And of course, Murray State is, as you may know, the alma mater of what current NBA point guard? Ja Morant.
Yeah, that completely just went by me there.
And now they are a 16, and now they're a 15 seeded team going into the Sweet 16. and how much further are they gonna go? We find out later on this week. So what stud are you kind of looking at there, Ruckus?
So this man was kind of on the back burner for the Green Bay Packers. No, it's not Devontae Adams, but this man was kind of hesitant to go into like training camp last year, and this year he finally got paid and got paid a lot. That man is Aaron Rodgers, also the MVP of the NFL in 2021. Uh, Mainly because he got paid and he is very well respected by the Green Bay Packers organization after going and replacing Brett Favre back in the day and still being a stud to this day.
I think the loss of Devonte Adams does lose a lot to his studness. I think he's become kind of one of the more hated players in the NFL, especially with some of the things going on, and I think even having a couple of different relationships like outside of that kind of failing him, just kind of a little bit of that luster of that stud that Aaron Rodgers is as a player kind of for me has fallen off a lot more, but that's aside the point.
Yeah, I just thought it was cool that he got a new contract and he was making bank finally.
As if he wasn't making bank before.
I mean, they made it sound like he wasn't one to one with his organization earlier last season.
Yeah. All right. So now we're on to the duds. And mine is current NFL quarterback prospects. Yeah, we mentioned it a lot more in the early portion of the show. But for me, the current NFL quarterback prospects, because a lot of teams were acquiring quarterbacks that would have been drafting high for them, it's now currently sent their stock a little bit lower. I mean, there is potential for quarterbacks to get picked up in certain teams that have quarterback needs or maybe deeper quarterback needs. Not necessarily saying, "Hey, we're not done with necessarily looking at competition yet," but still, I think the dud here is current NFL quarterback prospects, just simply because teams that may have been perceived as needing a quarterback, maybe not so much if your team has acquired one as the market shifted. But Ruckus, what's the dud for you?
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, um, over the years, many have thought, will this man ever think, you know what, I should retire because I love my kids, but I love the sport more. But also, for love of God, what are you still doing here? And that's why I have my dud as Tom Brady's retirement. He relapsed and was like, screw it, man. I want to go back to the Buccaneers and play some football. Yes, technically he didn't retire, in quotes, but his business that's literally Tom Brady 12 even put out a statement saying, thank you, Tom, hoping that everybody would think, oh, Tom Brady's going to retire. But we all know how that worked out. He ends up he's going to come back in the 2022 NFL season and probably scare us again next season and say that he retires. And then later disappoints us when he says, "Hey, I'm not retiring."
I
That was
don't.
my dud mainly because it lasted like a month.
Doesn't this kind of remind us of a certain other quarterback that's now in the Hall of Fame?
Brett Favre,
Kind of remind us of Brett Favre, minus certain other things that were involved in some of those unretirement stints.
Deshaun Watson.
I was saying Brett Favre, but that just kind of went off the rails quickly.
Just kidding.
Let's right the ship here, Ruckus.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, and on that note, it's time to go ahead and bring the shutdown on this podcast. And for all of you fans of sports, we will see you all next week for Ruckus and the Menace.
See y'all later. Bye-bye.